Hey, guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chris Thurton, and I work here, and I'm really excited to be here tonight. And a big reason I'm excited to be here tonight is because I get to be up front with one of my friends. Her name is Emily Lewis.
Hello.
Give it up for Emily Lewis. Emily, before we get to know you a little bit more, could you share with us what your favorite season is and why?
Definitely summer.
Summer?
Hands down. Hands down. I live in Seattle. It has to be summer.
Tell me about it.
Too
How
much
are you
rain.
feeling now that summer's ending a little bit?
I'm like really lamenting it, actually. I'm like really sad.
That's real.
Yeah, I still have like my summer playlist going.
Good.
You know?
Keep it going.
Yeah.
I've been holding on, I'm not gonna lie. Summer's my favorite season as well. All the reasons. It's warm, it's beautiful, it's the best. We have 9 months of rain, so I'm gonna take all the sun we can get.
Exactly.
Y'all, Emily has been helping out with worship here at UPC for the last little bit, but could you give us a little glimpse into your life and tell us maybe how you got connected with UPC and how you got here? Let us know a little bit about
Yes,
yourself.
for sure. So I'm Emily, like he said, and I have a lot of connections here actually, but none of them are like direct connections. Like I don't attend the inn as much as it looks like I do. I was asked if this was my first time here, and I'm like, yes, technically yes, but I'm not a college student anymore. Actually, I just started grad school, which is super
go.
fun. Yes, trying to get on that level. So yeah, I have a lot of connections here, but first and foremost, to introduce myself, I am a daughter, I'm a sister, I am a wife, and my husband's actually back there somewhere. Where do you,
Hey,
oh,
what
he's
up,
right there.
Phil?
He's right
He's
there.
right here, right in the middle of the
Married
aisle.
to the
Stand
one and
up,
only
all.
Phil Lewis. That's right. Yes, marriage has been a trip. It's been fun.
Let's go.
Also, I'm the program director of an organization called Brem Cascadia. And basically, we're an organization that bridges the gap between faith and the arts. So, yes, yeah, we can clap for that. Yes. Yeah, so you can ask me more about that later if you want to learn more about what that looks like. Also, I am the chapter head of an organization called Make America Dinner Again. Yes. If you raise your hand if you've heard of it ever before. Okay, wow, actually that's like pretty solid. Okay.
Let's go.
So Make America Dinner Again is basically an organization that invites people to the table to talk about politics. Like straight up. So we invite like 10 to 13 people from opposite sides of the political spectrum. They're diverse in age, gender, socioeconomic background, just all sorts of different kinds of people. We sit them down at a table. We set guidelines. We have like actual rules. And we have a conversation about anything between immigration, abortion, gun control, like all these different things. And we have a meal together. And the food is actually really important. It's the best part. Vanessa gets it, that's right. It's the best part. Actually, she'll be hosting our next dinner.
Let's go, Vanessa.
She attended our last meal that I hosted. She had a great time, and now she's gonna host one of her own. Super proud of her. So yeah, basically when you're a host, all you have to do is provide space for people. You're a neutral space for people. You're safe for both conservative and liberal points of view. And that's something that's really hard to come by in our political climate today. So I'm really passionate about that. That's like what gives me life. But I'm also a worship leader. I've also been leading worship for, like a really long time. So that's like a brief resume about like who I am, what I do. I'm also a 3 with a 4 wing on the Enneagram. If you couldn't tell, I don't know if you could tell by that, but yeah, any 3s in the house?
There you go.
Okay, cool. My husband's a 3 also. That's right.
There you
Yeah,
go.
he also looks like a college student. We're in it together. We're in this together.
There you go. And you guys are college students technically. You're just starting
Actually,
grad
yeah, we
school
both
again.
started grad school
There you go.
this year, yeah.
That's awesome. Hey,
Yeah.
if y'all couldn't tell, Emily is a rock star in life and also on the stage. Like she said, she's been leading worship forever. And guys, we are in the second week of a 2-week series as we look at this idea of worship and how we interact with it and how it has been so integral in our faith and how worship really can help not only communicate what we are feeling, what we're interacting with God, not only communicate what the climate of our culture is, it can also help dictate the direction that our culture is going in. And worship is just such an integral part of our walks with Jesus that we want to do a couple weeks where we get to really dive in to some of the nuances of what worship is. And last week we got to hear from Zawade, who shared a lot about the history of worship and how over the thousands of years that Christianity has really been a faith in this world, how worship has taken us through this. You can look at the worship patterns over the last thousands of years and see the cultural climate of the time and see the way that culture is being affected by the ways that we are praising Jesus through song, which is awesome. Tonight, we get to hear from Emily a lot more of the nuances of worship. Worship is a lot more than just music, is what we're gonna hear tonight, and I'm so excited about it. But before we get going to that, Emily, could you share with us a little bit about what your relationship with worship has been like throughout your life?
Yeah, for sure. Before I do that, though, I want to say that the worship team, where are you guys? Where are you? In the back? Yeah. You sang that song, Shekinah Glory. I haven't heard that song since high school, and it just really moved me. So thank you for choosing that song. I don't know, Holy Spirit moment. And also just noticing that I'm in a room full of worshipers. That's really special. That's not something that happens a lot, but I definitely got that feeling when I walked in, when I was kind of watching you guys interact and lead and worship with each other. So that's really special. Hold on to that. So a little bit about my experience with worship. I grew up in a super Christian home, almost too Christian, if you can be such a thing.
Anybody else? Two Christian homes?
Yeah, it's a thing. It's out there.
We've all been there. I've been there, so I get that.
Yeah. So both my parents are music teachers, and I grew up in a super Christian home. That's A plus B equals worship leader, right? It's just kind of the way it was. I didn't really have a choice. Worship wasn't something that was special for me. It was something that was really normal. It was a super average part of my life. Because I was at church all the time. We worshiped at home. We would do our own liturgies at home and everything. But out of that, I got a really strong undercurrent of what it means to be in the posture of worship. So I'll come back to that. So I grew up in that environment, all through high school, was leading worship in high school.
Real quick, could you take us, what's the liturgy?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes. Thank you.
I might not know what liturgy is.
Yes. Actually, y'all have a liturgy. Y'all have a liturgy because of the way you walked into this space, you greeted one another, you gathered, you worshiped. We're talking about the word tonight, kind of, in different ways. And you're going to be sent off and commissioned. So those four things are what creates a liturgy. And a liturgy is something that has been used ever since Jesus was alive. It's ancient. It's an ancient way of gathering people. It's kind of an order of what happens when we gather. And it's super duper old. So you guys are partaking in something that's really sacred and really ancient, and you might not even know it. So that's what a liturgy is.
Thanks. I didn't mean to derail us.
Oh, no, not at all.
Derail Revis on us, but you get back to it.
Yes. So, grew up in a really Christian home, had this kind of culture of worship that was always prevalent. And then I went to SPU, good old SPU. Yes, yeah, all right, yeah.
There's a couple of us.
Yeah, oh yeah, you went to SPU, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I loved my time at SPU. It was really sacred and special to me. I was also a worship leader there. I was the worship coordinator for 2 years in a row. Really loved it and kind of just had the same definition of worship, all throughout my time in college. Even though I was taking classes, you have to take core theology classes at SPU. And even though I was in those classes, I still had the same really bland definition of worship because it was just it's what you do. You just go to church, you go to chapel, and you sing to God. You have this really vertical relationship with him. Worship makes you feel good. It can heal you, and if it doesn't, that's okay. It's just kind of something you might partake in and something you might not. So for the longest time, my relationship with worship it looked like this. Just me and God. I can worship in community or I can worship in the car. I mostly did that. Worshipped by myself in my room. That was what I really enjoyed. But I kind of hit a brick wall when it came to corporate worship. I didn't really understand what that meant. until I kind of had a transformational moment at SPU. And I'm not gonna go into it too much, but just like as a trigger warning, if there's anybody out there that has intimate ties to the events of June 5th, 2014, that there was a shooting, I just wanna like give you space for that and make space for you to process however you need to, but I'm gonna talk about it just a little bit. So June 5th rolls around my junior year, and I was the worship coordinator during this time. There was a terrible, terrible shooting on campus that happened, and I have several ties to people that were like really, really intimately related to the situation. I was supposed to be in that building on that day, but I had dropped that class like 2 days before it happened. So I have a lot of things I'm actually still processing about that day, but the thing that actually really transformed me were the things that I experienced in that situation with my community, with a broken community. And the two things that I learned that were like super crucial to my like development and my definition of what it means to worship together was, first of all, we had a professor that he reimagined what it means for God's will to be done after those things happen. So he was the first person that told me that this is not God's will. Like, God doesn't intend for these things. This is not his good and perfect will. This is something that has gone wrong, and this is something that he will redeem, but it's not the thing that you encounter and you say, oh, everything happens for a reason. Oh, God just wanted another angel in heaven. Like, he was the first person that taught me that. Because for the longest time, I had a lot of different people in my community saying, everything happens for a reason, you know, God's will is God's will. But that really reshaped me in so many different ways. And the second thing that I learned, the second thing that I was able to redeem in my situation, like my pain from that experience is not erased. It's not something that I have like benefited from in the way that you might think. My pain is not erased, like the trauma is not erased, but God did redeem it. So he flipped it upside down for me, and he taught me about worship. So we had a vigil service the evening of the shooting for people that were grieving, which was all of us, including myself. And we held a vigil because people needed a space to be together. Also, this was like days before graduation. So everybody just left. Like after, it was June 5th, graduation was June 9th. So we were not able to grieve together like you're supposed to as a community. But this vigil was so special. And I was leading worship for this vigil, and we did something a little bit different. We actually gave communion. And for those of you that might not know what communion is, it's basically a really tangible, intentional way to encounter what Christ has done for us. So you take a piece of bread, you take a cup of wine or grape juice, and you take it in remembrance of the hope that we have. So it was about hope. Like that night, it was about hope. And it was the first time that I saw worship again with a renewed lens. It was like the first time that I was like, whoa, like this is worship. These people gathering and coming down the aisles to receive hope, like that's what it means. And I'm actually still processing like what that looks like in my life as a worshiper. But it was a really special redefining moment for me, because I saw like the table, like making space for people at God's table, like all people, not just the people in this room, not just the people that were in that room, but all people in all places, Christian or not, making space for them at the Lord's table and inviting them into that. I was like, wow, like this completely changes everything. And in that moment, my definition of worship went from like this relationship to something that embodied this as well. Like it's both this and this. Like, what is that? What does that make? A cross, wow. Yeah, it's kind of corny, but you know, it works. So my definition of worship drastically changed, and it became something that was embodied. So like if you want to write down a definition of worship, this is Emily Lewis's definition of worship.
This is good. Get
If
ready
you
for it.
care. But my definition of worship is an embodied expression that points to something greater. And that can be anything. It's anything we do that's embodied. It's dance, it's singing, it's setting a table for guests that are coming over that need a place to be. It's poetry. It's literally singing in your car. It's seeing a painting that actually moves you, that shakes you up a little bit. All of these things are actually acts of worship. And I had to step outside of my religious context to really understand that. So the thing that I got the most out of that was that hope is what worship is all about. When we gather to worship, we're actually just reminding ourselves that there's something greater and that there's hope. And I do want to say that hope is not a religious experience. It's a human experience. Hope is for everybody. And you can see it in our dominant culture. We're constantly seeking hope. We're in a place right now, particularly, where we're grasping for hope constantly. And every time you see something or encounter something that kind of is grasping towards something that's beyond ourselves, that's worship. And it doesn't happen only inside the walls of the church. And so I had to remove myself from that context. And my work with Make America Dinner Again is exactly what taught me how to do that. Setting the table for a bunch of strangers. That was worship. And it still is. It's the place where I find it's the place where I have the easiest time entering into worship, is in that space. And so it took me stepping outside of that for me to actually realize what my Christian worship, what my faith-based worship is supposed to look like.
Wow, thank you. Could you take us through some of those tangible ways of worship that you've seen, maybe that's outside of our faith, what you see people worship outside of Jesus and what that looks like? And then you gave us some expressions, but maybe some tangible ways inside of our relationship with Jesus that we can worship.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of outside, you guys already know, every time that you encounter somebody dancing, do you guys watch those dance shows on TV? I don't know, what are some of them so you think you can dance or whatever? Yeah, so there's no reason, there's no physical need for anything beautiful to exist. Beauty is not for survival. It's just not. Beauty is a part of every human being. Beauty is worship. Beauty is a form of worship. So you can do nothing. You can just sit in your chair and your existence is worshipful to the Lord because of who you are. And we need to continuously remind each other of that.
Come on.
Yeah, because that's something we forget constantly. When you look at another person, they are a piece of who God is. They are a piece of the Imago Dei, which is just another way of saying they hold God's image. But so many different ways that we can worship. When you're doing the dishes for your mom and you just don't feel like it, but you're I love this woman. I'm gonna scrub these dishes. That's a form of worship because it's a beautiful act of service. But I love that beauty is so unnecessary. There's no good reason for us to have beauty unless we have hope. And anything that you encounter in your daily life, anything you see on Instagram that you're wow, that's super beautiful. Wow, that's something that's a part of our identity as worshipers. And we're all worshipers. So that's something we can think about outside of the context of the church. And inside the context of the church, I love that one of your worship leaders, what's your name? Sydney, you said before you were gonna lead a song, you said, now we're gonna worship through music. And you made that distinction, that there's multiple different ways to worship. And I love that because there's a lot of church spaces that don't really do that. Our worship is singing and those things are synonymous, but they're not. There's so many different ways we can do that. But music is a really special way that we get to connect with the living God and also make space to connect with each other. And something that is so special about music, something that I had to relearn, is that when we sing over each other, we're stretching out God's promises over one another. It's different than just saying, "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound." It's so much different. It's elongating hope over ourselves and over the people around us. Yeah, it's totally different. Let's see if you can hear a difference. I'm gonna sing it for you.
This is good. You're in for a
I'm gonna
treat.
sing it for you, and then I want you to sing it with me. Second verse, sing it with me if you know it. If you don't know it, or if you don't want to sing, just let that worship be stretched over you. Let that promise be stretched over you. So close your eyes. Receive the promise. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me, like me. I once was lost, but now I've been found. Was blind, but now I see. Let's all sing the second verse if you know it. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Wow. Yeah, did you feel God's promises stretched over you in a way that helped you sit in that space? Like, that's what worship can do for us, is it makes space for us to remember that there's something more. There's something that we can be hopeful about. And it takes a long time for us to live in a way where this is like a normal posture. I know that from experience, from my own life. It's taken me years and years of this posture to walk through my day, to walk through the hard moments of my day, to walk through facing the death of loved ones, to walk through facing extreme tragedy, for this to be my first response. And when we come to church, when we worship together, that's us reminding ourselves and reminding each other that there's hope. Like, that's what worship can do for us. It reminds us that there's actually hope. This is not all there is. And every form of worship does that, not just singing. But I'm particularly biased towards singing because, like, wow, that's so special. But those are just some really practical ways that we can engage deeper in the hope that God has for us.
That's good. Also, congratulations, Phil. You get to hear that voice every day. That's awesome. Lucky man. And you guys could participate in worship on Sunday nights. Shameless plug.
Yes.
Shameless plug. 5 o'clock service is great. I'll be there. So will most of our staff. Em, what can we learn about God and ourselves through worship?
Man, there's so much.
True.
Yeah, and like the thing about worship is that it's just so continuous. So anytime you're asking questions, anytime you're seeking, anytime you're like reaching, those are the moments where our worship is going to educate us about who God is and who we are. So like it's in the process of reaching, which is something that all humans do. Like, all of us reach. All of us have moments where we don't believe that there's something more, but we're still going to reach. Like, this is something that we need. We need hope as humans. We need hope to survive. Like, it's a vital part of like our brain chemistry. Like, when it comes to anxiety and depression, hope is crucial. It cannot be left out. And so, I mean, when we learn about God, when we learn about ourselves, I really do think that it's in the reaching. And I think the moments that we've experienced that are the hardest, those are the times when we are going to reach out. And we're going to reach towards something that is greater than ourselves. And I think those are the moments that push us closer into who God is.
That's awesome. Thank you. How can someone grow in their worship relationship with God?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I would encourage you to do the most is to like walk around and see people as people that carry the image of God. That's gonna help you worship the most. Like if you can change your lens, if you can switch your lens to seeing people as literal image bearers of the living God, that's gonna change your worship completely. And if you're not able to do that, if you're not like looking at people and looking at God's children as the people that they've been created to be, like you're gonna be stuck in this kind of a relationship with worship. Like this is all it's gonna be, and it's gonna be about you and it's gonna be about God. And since we're human, it's probably mostly just gonna be about you. Like not gonna lie, it's a struggle. The struggle is real. And so, you know, as much as we can in a Christian culture that really, really focuses on, oh, it's just me and God, like he's my own personal Jesus. Like as much as we can, you know, not only with our own Christian communities, but like look around and be thankful for the humans that you're with. See the image of God in them, especially in conflict, especially when you disagree. It will be the most transformative thing. Yeah, and that's another plug for Make America Dinner Again.
What I love about that is that gives us the opportunity to enter into worship always. And I think so often when we think about that, I agree. It's always been, okay, there's a song in my heart, then I'm worshiping Jesus. Mm-hmm. But what about when I don't have that song? Yeah. You know what I mean? And just the fantastic opportunity that it is that we have to constantly be looking outside of ourselves to see the divine in Jesus. And what I love about that is it takes so many pieces of what we talk about here at the end, so many pieces of what we talk about as our community. When we talk about social justice, when we talk about seeing our homeless brothers and sisters that stay right outside these walls, when we walk to class and we're seeing all those things, when we step into our Counting 101 class and they're giving us all these numbers and things like that, but then you see this math equation that seems impossible that comes together and shows us how to do a life in a better way, that's worship. Yeah. And that's so cool to me, that worship isn't just in the form of you have an amazing voice, I might not, so that means I can't worship. Right. No, but I get to worship in the ways that God has created me to do so. And that gets to be the truth for all of you out there, yes, which is fantastic. I love that. Thank you for taking us through that. How can we join together with UPC to bring holistic worship to our community? Yeah.
So like Chris said in the beginning, I've been helping out with worship at the 5 p.m. service. And right now we're taking like portfolios, we're taking like letters of interest for any artists, anybody that wants to just contribute to what we're doing. So we're trying to build something that is a little bit more holistic. So we're looking for poets, we're looking for dancers, and we're looking for visual artists mostly right now, and worshipers as well, like anybody really. We're trying to cast a wide net for this because we want to really create a culture at UPC, which, you know, it's not an easy place to create new culture, I will tell you that. But neither is like any church in Seattle. I've done ministry in a lot of different church spaces in Seattle, and it's hard, you know? It's hard. So I just want to encourage you to reach out to me. There should be like a slide or something.
We have a slide, I think.
There's a slide or something for contact information. You can email me, you can DM me, I don't care. Just let me know if you're interested or if you know somebody that's interested. And I want to say, like, this doesn't have to be a person of faith exactly. Like, yes, we want to promote faith in the arts, but we also want this to be a welcoming space for all different artists. So if you know of somebody that's like maybe interested, just send them my way. Yeah, and I think like my final word for you guys is like, see each other. We're in a time where lots of people are struggling with depression, anxiety, and it just means so much if we can see each other. We're going to sing a song here in a minute called I Need You to Survive. And it's about this relationship. And I want you to see if you can add it to your repertoire so that every now and then we're looking around, telling people that hey, I need you. I need you in my life. I need your uniqueness. I need your Imago Dei in my life. So that's all I've got.
That's so real, especially as we enter into, as the days get a little darker. I know some of you don't want to hear that, but that is a reality and a truth. We need to do a great job of being able to see each other, reach out to each other. And when we are feeling lonely, someone else probably is too. So that's a perfect time to extend a hand and reach out to somebody. With that being said, I think we'll invite up our guitar player. I don't know who's playing right now. My guy, let's go. And Em's gonna lead us through a little song. We can pray and then go into it. I'm gonna pray for us and then Em's gonna lead us through a song, and I'm really excited about it. This song has been a huge influence in my faith walk, and it's gonna take us into a little bit of a different type of worship tradition than I think we're used to normally here. So pray with us. Jesus, thank you for all the ways that we get to encounter who you are, for all the ways that we get to see worship in our community, God. Thank you for the ways that we get to worship through song, in particular in this place, that we have a group of people that have devoted their time to be here to help lead us into your kingdom, lead us into your presence through music, God, that we get to tap into that. But God, for all the other ways that we get to worship, God, I pray that we would be able to bring those to you, that we would be able to celebrate that in ourselves and in each other, and that throughout it all, you would be glorified, and that we would be able to see your face more and more, and that your kingdom would come more and more. So Jesus, right now, as we enter into some time of song, we just pray that we get to experience you in some very cool and real ways. In your name, Jesus, amen.